Every year, millions of people travel thousands of miles to converge on a single coordinate in the Saudi Arabian desert. Once they arrive, they engage in intensely physical acts. They sprint back and forth between two hills. They hurl stones at massive walls. They participate in a globally synchronized mass animal sacrifice. To an outside observer, these highly specific, seemingly chaotic physical exertions might look baffling. Why does a major world religion demand its followers perform such a grueling ancient obstacle course? These movements function as a precise physical map of a single family's psychological breaking points and survival struggle. The timeline begins with an 84-year-old man named Ibrahim. For his entire adult life, he had prayed for a child. When his wife Hagar finally gave birth to a son, Ishmael, he thought his painful wait was over. But within a week of the boy's birth, Ibrahim received an incomprehensible command. He was instructed to take his wife and newborn away from their home, walk them deep into an uninhabitable, sun-scorched wasteland, and leave them there. He brought them to a completely silent, rocky basin surrounded by mountains, the exact spot where modern-day Mecca sits today. He left them with nothing but a single skin of water, turned around, and walked away. Hagar watched him disappear into the horizon. There were no trade routes here, there were no wells, no rescue parties. True submission to a higher power begins at the moment when all earthly safety nets vanish. Within 3 days, that single container of water ran dry. The intense heat of the valley took hold, and infant Ishmael began crying out, rapidly dying of thirst in the sand. Hagar laid the baby down and did what any terrified mother would do. She ran. She sprinted up a nearby rocky hill called Safa to scan the horizon for a caravan. Seeing nothing, she scrambled down and ran to an opposite hill, Marwa. She repeated this frantic search 7 times. Completely exhausted, she collapsed near her dying infant. But as the baby kicked his heels against the dry earth in distress, a sudden sound broke the silence. Crystal clear water violently ruptured through the cracked desert floor, right beneath the child's feet. Hagar built a barrier around the rushing spring to contain it, calling out Zamzam, which means stop flowing. That precise spring never stopped. It flows directly into the modern drinking stations, where today's pilgrims quench their thirst. When millions of people run between Safa and Marwa today, they are stepping exactly in Hajar's footprints. They are commanded to physically memorialize a mother's agonizing panic, locking her desperate search for survival into the core of the faith. Years later, the ultimate psychological test arrives. Ibrahim, now 92, has been reunited with his family. But over 3 consecutive nights, he experiences a recurring prophetic vision. He is commanded to sacrifice his most beloved possession, his son, Ishmael. Knowing this is a divine directive, father and son begin the walk toward a neighboring valley called Mina. Along this route, an adversary, Satan, appears in human form at 3 distinct points, trying to break Ibrahim's resolve by manipulating his paternal grief. At the first point, Satan tells Ibrahim he is insane. Ibrahim picks up 7 small stones and hurls them at the figure, driving him away. The adversary tries again with Hagar, and then directly with the boy, Ishmael. Each time, they reject the manipulation by throwing rocks. This is why pilgrims hurl pebbles at giant walls today. The ritual is an active, physical practice of recognizing your own internal doubts, your own ego, and casting them aside. They reach the place of sacrifice. Ishmael asks his father to bind him tightly and lay him face down in the dirt. He wants to ensure he doesn't flinch and to spare his father the agony of looking into his eyes as the blade comes down. Ibrahim strikes, but the blade simply refuses to pierce the skin. An unnatural physical resistance stops the execution. A voice calls out, declaring that the vision has been fulfilled. The ultimate test of obedience is complete. A ram is sent from heaven to take the boy's place. That exact moment of substitution echoes across the planet right now. It is the origin point for the global livestock markets and the mass animal sacrifice Muslims perform during Eid al-Adha. Having passed the hardest test imaginable, Ibrahim and his surviving son are given a final task. They gather stones and build a simple, square sanctuary right there in the tested valley, the Kaaba. The father and son had spent years in total isolation. By building this house of worship on the very ground they were tested, they anchored a global orientation for 1 billion people. If you look at that valley today, the deadly silence Hagar faced is gone. It's replaced by a sprawling metropolis built entirely around her struggle. The act of Qurbani, or sacrifice, requires a specific psychological displacement, treating the animal as a surrogate for the pilgrim's own worldly comforts. Just as Ibrahim had to release his grip on his only son, the ritual asks for the symbolic slaughter of the pilgrim's own ego and self-interest. The running, the stones, the millions of people dressed in identical white cloth, it's all designed to strip away the noise of modern life. It forces an internal surrender that mirrors the exact moment an 84-year-old father trusted the desert and walked away.